So good morning to all of you. At the outset, let me extend my thanks for the exchanges we had yesterday, as well as last night. And special thanks to our host, who was gracious to introduce me to people who have really been striving pretty hard in the last year or so over the term of this EBAC. First of all, let me recognize our distinguished Under-Secretary General, Secretary General. He's called Secretary General, not Under-Secretary, Secretary General of UNCTAD, who I'm delighted to have with me out here. UNCTAD has a phenomenal contribution to the private sector development at large. Datuk Rother, who's the chair, who all of you know already, and EBAC Council as a whole, representatives of the Global Reporting Initiative and OECD, our partner in development. Ladies and gentlemen, I think you all know what you are here for, so my comments are basically to share my own personal thoughts in this area. As Mark mentioned, this is the Regional Conference on Aligning Corporate Sustainability, and this time round with clarity on the Sustainable Development Goals. We do know how we need to move forward. What is good about this event is that it is a collaboration with the OECD, the Global Reporting Initiative, our council, EBAC, and also with UNCTAD Secretary General here. I'd like to extend him an invitation to be to have UNCTAD as one of our co-partners. The United Nations systems and our member states are now fully geared to negotiate and adopt Sustainable Development Agenda in 2015. It's a universal set of SDGs with associated targets. It's supplemented and complemented by a new framework for the financing for development, which is one of the critical means of implementation, and it includes other elements also of means of implementation. In particular, it's likely to have emphasis on science, technology, and innovation. We also know that there is a new global climate agreement with specific climate actions. So all these three areas are very critical. And in Asia Pacific, since bulk of the economic activity is driven by private sector, I believe you all know that you have the most important role to help ensure the success of the Sustainable Development Agenda and associated goals. Private sector plays a very critical role for both industries and services sector. Private enterprises drive the allocation and use of resources and productive processes. Private sector generates jobs and impacts both social welfare and the environment. This is why the actions of business are so critical for sustainable development. Consequently, Asia-Pacific corporate sector, irrespective of company size, needs to lead on sustainable development by ensuring that the business decisions and production processes are aligned to better balance economic, social, and environmental consideration, which is the main change in the development paradigm that sustainable development architecture brings. Corporate sustainability calls for responsible and responsive leadership, recognizing that what is good for a company must also be harmonized with what is good for our people and the planet. This creates real value grounded in human, natural, and social capital. Company management teams need to mainstream sustainability in their corporate strategies and encourage sustainable production and consumption, along with the need to make sure that the procurement systems are also effective. And procurement is critical, along with the use of technologies that promote resource efficiency and productivity, while also promoting workforce diversity with the skills and innovation necessary to achieve sustainability. Secretary General is playing a phenomenal role in all these areas, and I can tell you in terms of the gender balance, he's played a significant role even within the UN system. Corporate governance frameworks which protect shareholder value need to be reinforced to allow the scoring of business models and practices to evaluate compliance with sustainable development imperatives, a subject that I talked to some of you last night. This will require frameworks for enhanced corporate disclosure of core social and environmental metrics beyond profits and dividend returns. In their oversight functions, board of directors which are involved in the due diligence of corporate strategy, finance, and other key functions should also be assessing sustainability at the company level. Our Asia-Pacific corporate sector should strive to adopt inclusive business models and to invest in industries which have the potential to create more and better jobs through the application of innovative technologies and processes. Business should extend a broader range of social and economic services to marginalized communities, helping to lift them into the mainstream of the economy and society. For its part, the public sector must take a more active and substantive role in incentivizing responsible corporate behavior. Among others, this would involve establishing supportive policy environments, creating incentive frameworks for business to support adoption of sustainable development approaches, improving access to sustainable technologies, rewarding decarbonization, as well as encouraging renewable energy use, energy conservation, and efficiency, while imposing strict penalties for industrial wastage, pollution, and other environmental non-compliance. The public sector can also leverage action through amendments to company legislation with the proactive participation of securities regulators. At the same time, we are hoping that environment and labor ministers can work more creatively to nurture corporate responsibility and to assess and enforce compliance with policies and standards. Public sector authorities should also be playing a very proactive role to encourage corporates to promote impact investing. A lot is going on in this area, which I'm sure you're already aware of. To ensure real progress in implementing SDGs, we also need business to actively innovate and adopt technologies, to provide solutions, and to channel funding for investment into key sustainable development goal areas. Public-private partnership, of course, will be critical in this context, but for businesses to play an even larger role in the advancement of science, technology, and innovation, which are key enablers for sustainable development. Within our region, there has been progress on a number of fronts. For instance, the practice of mainstreaming sustainability into business operation has increased over the past decade. I was very pleased to hear of some of the examples of how you are achieving this. More than 1,500 companies in the region have already joined the United Nations Global Compact and committed to implementing the principles. I was very impressed when I went to India as to how they were trying to look at the legal framework to have a more sustainable approach to mainstreaming the sustainable development. But I have to say that sustainability mainstreaming remains more common among large export-oriented companies which operate at the higher echelons of international value chains and in fact are obligated to raise their standards of compliance to penetrate export markets. So it's really the external force rather than the internal drive or the ownership. Commitments to the SDGs, however, require all companies, export-oriented or not, to work differently and to commit to the future we want. The Global Compact and other key corporate social responsibility instruments, such as OECD guidelines on multinational enterprises, the Global Responsibility Sustainability Reporting Framework, and the ISO 26000 guidance on social responsibility, all offer enough guidance on how to integrate sustainable development into business operations. Financial intermediaries and investors also need to adopt more responsible behavior. I have been out there, so I know what can really be changed to achieve that. The bankers, the securities market, etc., all need to encourage companies seeking finance to demonstrate corporate sustainability commitments and results. In this context, the United Nations supported principles for responsible investment offer guidance on improving environmental, social, and corporate governance of investment portfolios, while a number of reporting instruments offer support by illustrating the ways in which finance drives corporate sustainability performance and thus facilitates accountability. So to conclude, I think as we draw closer to the final negotiations on post-2015 development agenda, and of course the landmark summit being hosted by the UN General Assembly in September, it is our joint responsibility to support the next phase of global development. This entails real action as well as ongoing monitoring and review to achieve better results for the future we want by 2030. Standing at the heart of all production and consumption, businesses, of course, are and should do more to integrate sustainability throughout operations and in every business and investment decision needs. It's with you as the captains of the regional commerce and industry that we can jointly drive the transformation for Asia. And as we know, Asia remains home to the largest proportion of the poor or deprived, in whether it is in work environments, in health, in education, and they do deserve paid decent compensation. So some of these thoughts I was able to pull together this weekend when I came to work. They are very much my personal goals and ambitions because I have dabbled with both multinational, public sector, as well as private sector in my career. So this reflects more on, of course, my knowledge of SDGs as I accumulated when I came to UN, but more so my working in alliance with the private sector, because I do believe that without private sector, we cannot have a change in the development business. Thank you.